it's all a little much.
Yeah, he's half man, half bird, all scary.
This is accurate.
Yeah.
What's up, weirdlings? It's Brittany.
And Cambria.
And welcome to the podcast today. We're going to be talking about
The Mothman of Point Pleasant, released in 2017. As of this recording, you can find it on Amazon Prime.
and it's worth a watch. It's a great one.
It's pretty good.
I really
enjoyed it.
Yeah. I thought it was great.
All right. So it starts out and we're like right into it. There's
Right?
narration over the credits. It's very dramatic, like movie trailer voice.
I also love that we have a narrator in this
Yes,
one because
I
we did
love a
not.
narrator.
We did not for
Stanley,
Stan Romanek,
yeah.
and I love that we have someone saying the scene for us.
Yes.
It's very nice.
I agree completely. It was great. So he talks about the Mothman, which we're all probably, somewhat familiar with. And he's talking in this very movie trailer
Very
voice. I
grandiose.
love it. He talks about like, it's one of those stories where a car full of kids sees a strange entity, but this time it's real. Right? He uses lots of words like haunted and shadowy. At one point he says carnival of horrors.
I love that. Oh
I thought
my
it was
gosh,
funny.
I laughed so hard, but in like an appreciative way.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved it.
I think that those are always funny. I'm always a little bit like, I want documentaries about these things. I want facts, I want figures, I want studies, I want science. So I think it's funny when these narrations or when the writing of it kind of gives away that there's probably a little bit of a slant. I mean, at least like I know what I'm getting into.
yeah.
So I appreciate it in a way.
I also do think that when we're talking about documentaries about things like aliens and cryptids and things, you kind of go in with a slant because not many people are going to
They're
make a
not gonna make
documentary
it.
about
Yeah.
it unless they're already like hyped about
I
it.
know, but that's one thing that's just like a little bit of a bummer to me. He explains that over like 13 months in this town of West Virginia, there were all of these experiences of this, and he describes it as a presence. Ooh, so spook.
Very spooky.
We center in on Point Pleasant, which is kind of the middle of this whole thing. So it's all very effective and very like unsettling.
Yes.
Didn't you get the creeps when you watched it?
Oh, yeah.
I was
I
like
had the
instantly
creeps
into it.
Like continuously
Yes.
through this thing, which I loved. That's my, I don't know. I love a creepy
Yeah.
ambiance.
Me too. It's very, very good. So there's this big like helicopter shot of the town. It looks like just like your perfect little small town, right?
Mhm.
Nothing really weird.
I mean, it's gorgeous.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I
West
was
Virginia is, I hear. I've never been there,
I haven't either.
but I hear it's lovely.
I've played it in Fallout 76, which also
Oh, there you
has a Point Pleasant and a Mothman museum and a Mothman statue, and you fight the Mothman.
Starts out with Denny Bellamy. He is the director of tourism. Hey, what do you think the biggest tourism pool is here in Point Pleasant?
No. It's either Mothman or Mothman.
That's going to be the Mothman. So he explains that Point Pleasant, he's lived there his whole life. His family's lived there for 200 years. Very like, good colonial stock, right?
Salt of the earth.
Salt of the earth type people, exactly. And he says Point Pleasant is this rural community. There's only like 5,000 people that live there. Everyone knows everyone. And it's like a physically small town, too. It's only like 3 miles from north
Yeah,
to
kind of
south or
bitty.
something.
Kind of a small little place.
Yeah, from border to border. So Point Pleasant, West Virginia is just barely in West Virginia.
Yes.
Literally across the river it's Ohio, which I'll admit, I didn't realize they were so close to each other.
I didn't either.
Apparently West Virginia really scoots its little booty over there into
Yeah.
the Midwest. I didn't
It
know
really
that.
does. It's just kind of.
I didn't know that.
It makes me realize I don't know much about states.
Not
as
those
far
middle
as
ones.
where they line up
No,
and
yeah.
things.
So we're gonna learn a little bit about the history of the town. Is what we're gonna learn about now in the
Yeah.
in the show. Apparently, back in the day, there was this battle I put in quotes between the invading white state-backed militia and the Shawnee and the Mingo tribes.
I'm fairly certain it was Denny that said they decided to stand their ground against a perceived militia
Yeah,
led by a colonel.
yeah.
So I was like, that's not perceived militia, friend. That's colonizers coming to take people's land.
Yeah.
So let's not make these people protecting themselves into this. Oh, well, they were just confused. Okay, so you sent Colonel Andrew Lewis,
Mhm.
the head of your not militia?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, buddy.
The indigenous fighters were led by this chieftain whose name is recorded in the annals of history as Cornstalk.
Yes.
Hey, I'm like pretty sure that's not his name.
I
That's
have
his
no idea.
whitewash name.
Oh, boy.
All right. That's fine. They go into a little bit of detail in the show about it, but let's just say, they call it a battle, but really it was probably like people trying to protect themselves. So they come to some sort of treaty, and then 3 years later, Cornstalk and his son come into town, supposedly on some sort of diplomatic mission. And in true colonizer fashion, we just went ahead and murdered him.
Yep.
And his son.
Yep, both of them. Kidnapped him, murdered him. Super cool.
Very, very cool. Then we are introduced to Lynn Fawn Cornwell Robinson, who has a great name.
She's a Point Pleasant resident, right, Fawn. She's 7th generation of Chief Cornstalk, is her great-great-grandfather. You can tell she's a little bit not super happy with how this is portrayed. Understandably so.
Yeah. Pretty shitty. But next, we start hearing from this guy.
What a last name.
I know, Wamsley. It's the best.
Do you want to describe? I just have bullet points for him. He's an author. He's a teacher. He's the curator of the Mothman Museum.
He also has very, very long hair, longer than yours or mine, well past his shoulder, it's which is great. I'm not dogging on that. I have a long-haired husband. Everything's fine there. And he's got some great little rimless glasses and a little soul patch.
He does.
And he looks like, just imagine what you think the classic rock DJ at your local classic rock station looks like on the radio. That's Jeff Wamsley. He has both the name and the look of a classic rock DJ. Yes. And he's an author / curator, which I like.
The gap with the slash in there.
Yeah, curator of the Mothman Museum. Again,
yes.
Maybe maybe Mr. Wamsley has a very measured and balanced response and, brings that to his observations about the Mothman. Or maybe he's a curator of a Mothman museum.
Yeah. It's hard to be both. It's hard to be both.
Absolutely.
I do take a little bit of issue that he kind of leans into this whole idea of this curse.
Yeah.
That supposedly, when Cornstalk, was brutally murdered in cold blood on a diplomatic mission, that he then cursed the town of Point Pleasant for 200 years.
Yeah.
I do like Jeff, though. I love a man with a passion.
Yes.
I do not like his, what is the word I'm looking for? Little bit of implicit racism.
Yes.
Yep. Which I really don't like about this whole thing in general right now.
Yeah.
So we get some hot takes on this whole curse thing. We have Lynn Fawn, who is a descendant of these people, who's just kind of this wasn't even a thing. There was a play in the early 1900s that they find out about later.
Yeah, years later.
Yeah. This play was found in 2011.
Yeah.
6 years before this documentary. And it was from the 1920s.
Yeah.
And it was an elementary school play. And it's about the history of the town.
Now, listen, I've been to a few elementary school plays, and I would not call them historically accurate.
Not at all.
No. I was in one where I sang a Pointer Sister song. Yeah, guess what song it was?
Oh, no.
I'm so excited, which is a little bit inappropriate for fourth graders to be singing, I think, in hindsight.
Oh, boy. Yep. I can see that.
That's not
good. But you did it. You did good.
Tonight,
and you didn't
gonna have some action is the line of that song. Tonight we put all other things aside. Right?
Oh my God, yeah,
that's not for kids. Why was I singing that?
That's about sexy time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
And I didn't even realize it was a problem until I was a full-on adult, and I was like, "Oh dang, those are some explicit lyrics there."
Hello, elementary school.
That's probably fine. I mean.
So in 2011, right, they find this play. They are tearing down this old school for some reason, and they find a secret closet, which is super fun.
Yeah.
But in this secret closet is a racist play.
Yeah.
So in the play, it is a full-on monologue with Cornstalk cursing everyone, after he's been shot. Poor Fawn is just it was the stupid play, and then everyone just told their children that it was true, and then those children told their children that all this bad stuff.
Can you imagine a bunch of white people scapegoating an entire ethnic group? That's crazy.
That is wild.
Why would that happen? Why and where would that?
In the history of the world
I can't even
has
think of a time that has happened.
And I also think it's really shit to murder a man and his son in a time of peace and then blame everything bad that happens for 2 centuries on those people you
stole their
land and murdered.
Yeah, Fawn wasn't down with that either. She was like, "Can we not?"
I'm with Fawn on this one.
Me
I
too.
like Fawn.
Me too.
She's reasonably perturbed. She's just over
reasonably
it.
perturbed.
And then Denny does say, I think most places have bad stuff happen.
Yeah, especially over that amount of time.
I think that's just
life.
So, in the early 20th century is when we start having what they call Birdman sightings.
Birdman.
I also love when they call him Big Bird. Makes me
Yes.
laugh so hard.
Me too.
Big Bird. This was interesting to me because I didn't realize the sightings started that early.
Yeah, me neither.
Because, the big ones are in the late 60s. And I thought That was kind of the beginning and end of it?
Yeah.
So it was interesting that, like, some of these sightings occurred almost 50 years before any of that.
With very similar descriptions.
Yes.
Which is very interesting.
Like creepy similar. Yeah. Very similar.
Yeah.
Then we have James Jones, who kind of documented a lot of these early sightings of the Birdman. The Birdman. No, he was not yet a Mothman.
No.
He was only a Birdman.
Yes. He has to pupate
yes.
into a Mothman.
It takes a long time to get there.
Well, I mean, the thing's supposed to be over 6 feet tall. It had to grow.
He documented a bunch of these sightings of the scary Birdman in Haunted Valley and more tales of Appalachia.
Appalachia, which is such a cool word.
It is. That's how you pronounce it, right?
Yeah.
It's not, people say Appalachia, but
no,
it's Appalachia.
Appalachia.
Like I'm going to throw Appalachia.
Yeah.
1914 was kind of when things started being recorded, and people are saying there's this big, looks like a bird, looks like a man. He's like 6 feet tall. Wingspan is 12 feet.
Yep. Some consistent things that I would like to point out here.
Yes.
6 feet tall, 10 to 12 foot wingspan.
Yes.
That is extremely consistent.
And spans decades.
Yes.
These are fairly consistent and over a long period of time. They do say that when he, in the very beginning, the Birdman sightings, he had dark reddish feathers that glistened in the sunlight. I had not ever heard that. It also sounds very scary.
Yes.
I also haven't
All
heard...
birds sound scary to me, but that's fine.
A giant birdman?
I don't like
with glistening red wings?
No, thank you.
It's not your favorite thing that you've ever heard
not.
about in your whole life?
Nope.
According to Jones, he says that these sightings of the Birdman persisted well into the 1940s, which is a full 25 years before we get to the real Mothman sightings.
Right.
He also says that over time, people started thinking of this Birdman as either a prologue or an epilogue to like a tragic occurrence.
Yes.
So either you saw him right before or something bad happened.
Kind of an omen.
And then you saw him right after. But it seemed like if you were going to see him, something bad was either on the horizon or had just happened.
Yeah, but again, we just like live in the world, and so something bad is always right on the
true.
horizon.
That's true.
I mean, I don't want to be a downer, but...
Well, and sometimes it's nice to have something to be like, it's the Birdman's fault.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Hey, guess what? I'm really super upset that this happened and
Probably
that damage was done and people were hurt. And you know what? Fuck Birdman.
Yeah.
Get him out of here.
Yeah, I don't like it.
He's the worst. You know what? Bird's too good for him. Now he's Mothman. Now he's a Mothman.
Agreed.
The 1960s arrived. This is where like we get into the
Yeah.
fun stuff.
Yep, I wrote that down. Shit gets real.
Like, the 60s are bonkers anyway. Like they
Mhm.
kind of go over some of the big things that were happening. They talk about like the space race and like Vietnam War. And all this like big national stuff is happening. And then here in Point Pleasant, we have Mothman.
Yes.
It kind of starts off with a guard stationed at McClintock, right? McClintock?
Sure.
A wildlife.
Yes.
A
A
management
preserve,
area.
Yeah.
Some of the names for these places threw me off a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a guard who's working near this wildlife management area. He claimed to see a brown, half bird, half man, like perched in a tree.
Yeah, no.
No.
I'm not into it.
No. No, that's bad. About 2 weeks later, this Mothman, now that we're kind of calling him Mothman, appears, but he's about 80 miles east of Point Pleasant. The image that they put on screen for this is like just a giant yikes. I am not one to be usually like a drawing or a CG image or something.
You love a scary movie.
I love a scary movie, and those don't scare me.
No, yeah.
This gave me chills. It is so... I think it's because it plants that picture in your brain of what it would be like to look up and see that in a tree.
It's awful. That is a running theme. You're going to hear us say this 17 times.
It gets progressively more awful.
The images, they do an excellent job if this was their goal. The animations and the drawings that they use and the illustrations are so scary. Probably the biggest pull of this. Like, you should watch it for the drawings because they are so good. Sorry, I'll say drawings like a normal person.
I love drawing.
Okay, thank you.
I would say the drawings are one, and also the amount of people who are sharing their actual experiences is fantastic.
Agreed.
Hold on to your butts, though, because like the images that they put in there are horrifying.
Yeah. To be fair, no photographic evidence of the Mothman, but lots of drawings.
That's true. I know it's movie magic, but I hates it.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not okay.
And then it goes to a telling, we're going to talk about this sighting that happened in November of 1966. Almost all of these sightings that we talk about for the next hour are in November of 1966. Yeah. They're incredibly packed in here.
The holidays are busy for all of us.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a real kickoff to the holiday season. And so this happened in Clendenin, West Virginia, which is about an hour away. Again, this is kind of an ongoing theme. We talk about Point Pleasant a lot because, again, again, hopefully this isn't spoilers to anyone, but it had that big bridge collapse that's often associated with the Mothman, but this was really more like of a regional thing. Like, within 100 miles of Point Pleasant, we're seeing tons of sightings.
That's kind of where Mothman seems to reside. Yes. It's kind of within Point Pleasant may be like considered the epicenter, but he definitely does not live there.
No, yeah, absolutely.
He will go flitting around and scare the shit out of anyone he can find.
We'll travel for scares. Yes. Travel for scares. Yeah. So 4 men are digging a grave at dusk. Which, like, you cannot ask for a better
so
setup.
Many questions.
Like, are we trying?
Where?
Are we trying to have a paranormal experience?
And also, whose grave are we digging? Is this a graveyard or just did you murder someone?
It's the 60s. We don't have bulldozers in the 60s? I thought we did. But apparently we don't. We dig them by hand. So anyway, with 3 of our best friends are digging a grave. They claim to see what they call a flying man fly over them. But before we really get into the Mothman, the narrator is going to tell us about some other kind of local legends. So that's kind of a teaser. And now Now the narrator. Wouldn't it be great if the movie was narrated by the Mothman?
And then at the very end, the camera turns.
Yes.
And it's the Mothman the whole time.
Yes, exactly. Like Masterpiece Theater style. And he's in a library.
And he's also Morgan Freeman.
And he's also Morgan Freeman. Yeah, that would be great. This narrator did not have the gravitas of Morgan Freeman.
No, but he could have had the gravitas of a Mothman, so who knows?
He had the gravitas of an 8th grade science teacher. Stop it.
A little bit, yeah.
It was a little bit nasally. Which is fine, me too.
Maybe an 8th grade drama teacher.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I had a few drama teachers this very much reminds me of.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so
that does make sense. So we're going to learn a little bit more about some of the phenomenon that is happening in the area. Yes. I did a little outside research for this. This is how into this I was. The narrator just like brushes over the spook lights. He just like...
Are those orbs?
Yes. So he rattles it off in a list of things that happen in and around Point Pleasant, into Ohio, just kind of all over in this area.
But he just says spook lights and doesn't do much
just like in a list. He's like...
And also spook lights.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, here's a bunch of things that happen. There's this and this and spook lights. And I was like, sorry, spook lights? That sounds great. So I think what he really means are ghost lights.
Yes,
because I did some outside research and there is like a phenomenon specific to Missouri.
So it's regional.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. And it happens between the 1800s and the early 1900s, which I find pretty interesting because that lines up really well with our Birdman
I was about
sightings.
to say, sounds like Birdman times.
Yeah, Birdman times, exactly. It's happening in Missouri over and over and over. There's lots of documented there's some sightings before that and a little bit after that, but late 1800s, early 1900s is like spook light prime time.
That's like primo.
Yes.
That's their heyday.
Exactly. And the spook light is considered a type of ghost light. So that's the specific to Missouri one.
Okay.
There's also like St. Elmo's fire, which is famous, right? And even the Will-o'-the-Wisps from English folklore.
Hang on.
Or
St.
from
Elmo's fire. What, huh? That's a ghost thing?
Yeah, the Will-o'-the-Wisps.
No, not those. It's Elmo's fire. What the what?
Yes, it's like a fire that just burns in the sky.
Oh, I thought that was just a song.
Or
or an
soap
80s
opera?
movie, or something. I don't
No,
know.
apparently it's a thing.
Oh.
Honestly, I looked it up and I thought you would know about it, and then I felt stupid that I didn't, so I didn't do more research.
Oh, I had no idea.
Brittany probably knows about that.
I've heard of that. I thought Molly Ringwald was in it. I just assumed it was the Brat Pack.
No. So St. Elmo's fire, I guess it's probably like swamp gases that spontaneously start on fire. Yeah, that's what it is.
I am
probably.
into it. Okay.
Also a ghost light, right?
Okay.
So it's another kind of ghost light.
So it's like a family of spooky optical lighted apparitions.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
They're all the same family.
Yep.
Okay.
And then Will-o'-the-Wisps, which of course you know from English folklore or because you've seen the movie Brave, which is how I know them. So we have those going on. And then in the 50s, you get all these reports in the same area, right, of the Flatwoods monster.
Yes.
Yeah. So witnesses report a glowing object streak across the sky. And when they go to investigate, they find this horrifying creature.
Yes.
There's this absolutely terrible illustration.
The fuck?
Again.
Yes.
It's like whiter at the top. It like has sticky branchy
I don't like
outies. It's like, it's so scary. And the way that it's drawn is, you know, like when you see bad movies and they do seances and they just do like the free association and then someone scribbles frantically. That's what the illustrator drew based on the way that it was described. So scary.
It's scary. That's like, also in Fallout 76.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, Flatwoods Monster.
The Flatwoods Monster. There you go. You're learning all sorts of Appalachian lore.
Yes.
And it's this gigantic thing. It's horrible. It has glowing eyes and spindly arms. Do you
Fuck
remember
off.
the spindly arms?
I didn't remember that, but that adjective can fuck off.
And gigantic claws. So they draw this horrifying picture.
Wait, it has claws?
Yeah, yet.
I missed the claws.
Yeah, we'll have to look.
Shit.
I'll have to look up a picture for you.
Isn't it like 15 feet tall too? Like no. Hey, that's like 3 Cambrias.
It's very bad.
That's 3 full Cambria heights.
That's exactly
tall.
3 full Cambrias.
Oh no.
It's so scary. And they draw it with like a little man figure next to it, and it's completely dwarfed by this thing.
That's when it got scary for me because I was like, well, this sounds kind of dumb. Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's very, very scary.
No, thank you.
So they talk about that in the show, and then the narrator says that there's lots of Birdman and Mothman encounters that also have some sort of aerial phenomena, glowing lights or objects streaking across the sky.
Isn't that interesting?
With both the earlier Birdman and then what is later kind of Mothman. And I think the documentary, and I think most of the research I did, suggests that these are the same.
The same
thing.
Okay, that's kind of what I inferred.
Yeah. I don't think most people who have studied this think that there's a Birdman and a Mothman. I think it's just different ways of describing the same thing. Yeah, anyways. Then we hear from Merle Partridge.
Love it.
We actually have a recording of Merle's story.
Which I love.
I know. I love hearing it in their own voice.
I love these audio recordings.
Me too.
I think it fleshes the story out. A narrator's great. Having these people tell their own stories, though,
I totally
priceless.
Agree. Yeah, I completely agree. But guess who we told this story to? DJ Whamsley is recording these, and I did not...
DJ Whamley in the afternoon. Butts.
We got your 5 at 5. Riding out the commute.
With Mothman.
With you, me, and Mothman. I did not see any accreditation to Jeff. I did not find out where he may have gone to journalism school. I don't know. I don't know how these interviews went, right? And again, this is me being a little bit stingy because that's what I want. I want to know he didn't ask leading questions. I want to know.
Which, to be fair,
we're not gonna get that.
Jeff, I do like you very much in this. I have every expectation that you did lead the witness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that doesn't make it any less fun. I'm just saying it does make it a little less scientific.
Exactly. It makes it it takes a little bit of the credibility away. It doesn't make it invalid. It doesn't make it less fun to watch. It just means I can't say this is facts.
Yeah. Means you got to take it with a spoonful of sugar, which I get that. So he is talking to Jeff, our buddy Merle. We get dropped into the middle of the recording. Like, you don't really hear what happens before or after. But Merle describes how he's sitting around watching TV, and all of a sudden his TV starts making this high-pitched noise, this ringing, whining noise.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's bad.
Also, the animation for this is
so cool and so scary.
I was about to say, horrifying.
Yeah, it's like oil pastels come to life.
It's like a 3D scary oil pastel.
It's very cool.
Like I could touch it, but I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, no. And it's all blue tones because it's supposed to be at night. It's really neat.
It's well done.
It's very cool.
Well done.
I made my husband come and watch it. I was like,
I mean, I don't like it because it scares me. I like it because it's cool.
Cool. Yeah,
they did a good job.
Agree.
Good job, guys.
So we're hearing Merle's story in the recording, and then also seeing this animation, which is really neat. And he says his dog Bandit starts acting up, like the sound is hurting his ears, like he's barking and turning in circles and scratching his ears. So Merle stands up to turn off the TV, and then his whole TV explodes and shatters all over the floor. So there's glass all over the floor. The TV is broken. Merle's like, what is going on? He goes out to the porch to get Bandit, but as soon as he goes out, the dog takes off towards like an outbuilding away from his pump house. Right. Yes, you're absolutely right. That's what it was. He looks down by the pump house where the dog has ran towards, and he sees these red lights circling around each other. He specifically says they're not eyes because they're like moving around each other.
They're independent of each other.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't he say he thinks it's a helicopter?
Yes, first glance.
At first he thinks maybe that's what it is.
Yes, but then he says, that's exactly right. But there was no noise. It's too small and too close to the ground to be a helicopter.
Yeah.
But he says he thought it was a helicopter. There's no noise. He kind of just sits there calling for his dog, being freaked out for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then he finally goes back inside. And here's a very sad part. Please don't cry. That's the last we see of Bandit. They never find
No, he's gone. He's gone. Which, I mean, not to expose my own bias, I kind of like Mothman. This makes me not like Mothman a little bit.
I know.
I'm like, what?
Why are you being mean
What
to
about
the dog?
Bandit, though?
I know.
Maybe they join. Maybe they're in cahoots. Maybe Bandit is his buddy now.
Now he's been turned into a dog.
A dogman?
Yeah.
A dog moth.
A moth
Yes.
dog.
A moth dog.
That'd be very cute, actually.
Oh, it would be.
Then we have this awful transition where we just go straight from losing Bandit, and then literally the next line is like, authorities call it the TNT or the TNT area. And we're like, what?
I know.
What? It's apparently this McClintock wildlife management area. There used to be a big munitions manufacturing facility up there during like World War II. That's why they call it the TNT area. And then it was abandoned after World War II, and it became this like toxic waste dump and chemical dump.
You got some crap? Put it here.
Then when they realized, oh crap, we put a bunch of chemicals here and we can't really sell it because it's like dangerous. I know. We'll make it into a wildlife reserve. So in the 60s, teens used to go up there and drag race and do drugs and make out and stuff.
Of course.
Which, yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's also called the TNT zone, guys.
Sounds
You're
cool.
begging for teenagers to think that's a cool place to fuck around.
Bang.
Right?
This is like one of the first big documented Mothman stories in this run from the late 60s, and specifically from 66. So there's these two couples, Steve and Mary Millette, and Roger and Lara Scarberry. They're driving around. We're hearing the story from a few different people. We're hearing it from a guy named George who apparently knew them, and then we're also hearing it from Jeff. So we're hearing it secondhand.
And it's a very famous sighting.
Yes.
It's usually this is one of the big ones that people talk about when they talk about Mothman.
This is one I've heard of. Yes.
Yeah, I had heard of it from a few different places, but it's definitely well known.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Jeff is very funny. He wants you to know specifically that they took Roger's 57 Chevy Bel Air. It's important that you know that.
In case you want to fact check shit.
I guess. Because Jeff wants you to know.
He knows we're going to Google it.
Yeah.
And say, how many miles per hour does this car go?
Yes. Jeff, tell us.
Hey, Jeff.
Anyways, they drive up to the North Power Plant. They're just kind of having a joyride, which is great. And they see something in the road, standing in the road.
No. No.
So at first they think it's a man, but as they get closer, they see it's quite a tall man. If it's a man, they say it's at least 7 feet tall. And it's kind of obscured. It's just like this light gray, shadowy figure, and one of them says that they see like folded wings on its back. Very scary. And as they drive up on it, it spreads those wings.
Yeah.
And it doesn't fly away. It just kind of like awkwardly runs towards the power plant. There's a horrible animation that's so scary.
Don't like it. They get back in their car, right? They're a little bit hesitant to go to the cops. They're not really sure what to do. They get back onto Route 62, and as they're driving, Linda sees this motherfucker again, standing by a billboard.
Yeah,
just
seeing
the Mothman standing there, just like wings straight out, just standing there, and then just rockets into the sky. Here's the thing you'll learn about Mothman. He does not need physics.
Doesn't need those wings.
He doesn't flap them.
Nope.
He just maybe puts them out for show, and then basically just rockets upward.
Just ascends. Yeah, that's a repeated detail that we hear
a lot,
over and over and over and over.
He's never flapping his wings. He never has to get any kind of propulsion or thrust.
He just goes up.
He just is on the ground, and then he is not on the ground.
And I don't like that.
I don't like that at all. It also makes me think a little bit. We can talk about this a little more later. Like it's pretending to be a bird or something that flies, and it's mimicking what it thinks people need to see when something is a flying thing.
I'm gonna cry.
We can't just have a man shoot up into the air because the humans all know. So why don't we put a man with wings? So they continue on this straight stretch of road.
Because what else are you gonna do?
Get away.
Keep driving.
Very smart.
Obviously.
Get out that TNT zone.
Good job, guys.
So they are driving, and then all of a sudden, Mothman swoops over the car and is kind of right where the car is.
Kind of glides over the top.
And they say they are going 90 to 95 miles per hour. That's a lot of miles per hour.
That's very fast.
That's too fast. The Mothman is just flying at almost 100 miles per hour over this car. It would kind of disappear and come back, but it was right there with him the whole time.
Jeff describes that they were
a little concerned. I was like, okay.
Hey, Mr. Wamsley, that's very scary shit.
A little concerned.
One time, I made my husband wake up and walk down the street with me in the middle of the night because I heard a weird noise and it was a cat in heat. I don't even know where to start on a 7-foot-tall winged man who can fly straight up. Because the cat in heat made me a little concerned, Jeffrey.
Concerned.
I was a little concerned about a weird noise a cat was making. A 7-foot man who flies straight up in the air.
And then can follow you at 100 miles per hour?
And then can follow me at 100 miles an hour.
Supposedly without flapping a wing?
I don't even...
A little concerned.
Jeffrey.
So Mothman chases them to the city limits. They say they are for sure they reached like 100 miles per hour in their car. And then they went to the sheriff and were basically like, what the fuck is this?
I got the impression they went straight to the sheriff.
Yeah,
they went to the sheriff's
I think they went straight from... I mean, why would you not, though?
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, I would.
100% I would.
I would live at the sheriff's house from then on. I'm like, I hope you're cool with roommates because I brought my sleeping bag and I am crashing in the basement.
Absolutely.
Protect me, please. We'll learn more a little bit about the papers that cover some of this stuff, which I think is great. But they have a headline that comes on screen from November 18th, so right after all this stuff happens. And the headline is, "Monster No Joke for Those Who Saw It." In this article, police say that more than 1,000 people were out in this area searching around trying to find Mothman just for a peek at it.
Yeah, Denny says it's like Jaws.
Yeah, it's bad.
Like, people are out with their guns.
So the cops and the volunteer firefighters who were out there kind of keeping tabs on people were worried that there was at least one firearm per car.
Yeah.
And they were worried that shit was going to go down.
Yeah.
In the article, it says that people are going out to the area to see the monster, and it says, quote, "The sightseers know there's no such thing, but they're not about to miss a chance at seeing it."
That's like your famous line. I don't believe in ghosts, but I am afraid of them.
I'm definitely afraid of them. Denny says that, of course, the first thing that these Americans want to know is, first of all, can we shoot it? Second of all, if there's more than one, can we shoot two?
I wrote down Denny probably has that embroidered in a frame. It's like family rules at his house.
I was like, am I laughing or am I crying? I don't know if that's funny or if that's horrifying.
Both, because I'm scared and also that's funny.
The interesting thing about this is that we kind of get, it's a lot of bang for your buck. You go in thinking you're getting some Mothman, and you get a lot of cool, you get other cryptids, you maybe get some alien shit, you get some ghost light stuff.
A surprising amount of alien shit.
Really and truly, yes. Which, again, yeah, I'm all for it. So next, there's a man from Parkersburg who's a salesman, and supposedly he has spoken to a spaceman. His name is Woodrow. We're not going to worry about his last name. I have Derenberger, but that sounds made up.
No, that sounds right.
Does it?
Yeah, I can remember.
So Woodrow Derenberger is accosted by what we call the Grinning Man. We don't like the Grinning Man.
The Grinning Man is awful.
It's terrifying.
It's the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Woodrow is driving, middle of the night, and a UFO lands in the middle of the road in front of him. Out gets a being. And he says, without speaking, so telepathically, he says that his name is Indrid Cold, which sounds like an alien trying to make up a human name.
And then there's a drawing.
Here's what I will say for that. We'll say this. We have an Instagram. Go check out our Instagram.
Yes.
And we will post a picture for your displeasure of Indrid Cold. We are so sorry for the mental trauma that we are about to inflict upon you, but
it's so scary.
I'm also not sorry because I need more people to see this. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it does make it feel a little bit less scary.
The picture they have of this grinning man.
The Grinning Man.
Fuck off. He, in this illustration, has very tiny eyes and a very big mouth.
With pointy teeth.
With pointy, scary teeth. And he is grinning in a way that makes you very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
He's not a happy grin. That's a bad grin.
And the rest of it's just like silhouette. So it's just like these scary...
And it zooms in really close.
It
fills the whole screen.
As it's telling you the story. It was very scary.
Yes. It's not okay.
I don't like it.
It's very bad. So now we have this Indrid Cold who's on the loose. It's unacceptable.
It's so scary. I think it's really interesting that they have this UFO story, because I've heard lots of Mothman stories before, and perhaps it was just my ignorance, but I don't usually lump it in with an ET UFO story.
Yes.
I usually hear it as like a cryptid story.
Yes. Well, later, there's a lady who says, not from Earth. And I'm like, so that makes him an alien, not a cryptid.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought this motherfucker was a cryptid.
No, apparently he's an alien.
Could it be a cryptid and also an alien?
Sure. I mean, I don't care. Sure.
Because I want him to be a cryptid. I don't want him to be an alien. That scares me too much.
Okay. Then
I want him to be a critter.
Then for the purposes of this show,
for this
here in Studio Mobile, yes,
our stance is he's a cryptid.
He's a cryptid.
So then we have a lady in another town. She sees what she says is a massive cylinder just coming down from the sky, lands in the parking lot just next to her.
Yeah.
So out of this silver cylinder come these two dudes, and they just like start asking her questions. And at the same time, this Indrid Cold asshole is like bugging two other dudes somewhere else, like at the exact same time. I just want to go back to Big Bird. I just want to talk about Big Bird and Birdman and Mothman, and I don't want to talk about Indrid Cold anymore.
So scary.
I don't like him at all, and I want him to stay in his UFO.
Me too.
So then we have a flannel reporter who is Dave Payton.
Dave Payton, I like him a lot.
I like him very much too.
He's kind of Johnny on the spot.
Yeah. When all this stuff was happening, he was a young, ambitious reporter, and he kind of just like covered whatever happened.
Yeah.
Like, didn't matter if it was like you got a weird thing going on at your farm, we'll cover it. You see a thing in the sky, we'll cover it. He was saying that he would always get calls from people where they would say, look, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but, and then they'd tell him about these sightings, and he was like, I hear them all the time. You're not crazy. And that becomes kind of his gig. They even have a special assignment desk for him.
Yes.
So that when people call in, with UFO reports, it gets sent right to our friend Dave.
Yeah.
I also love, you can't peg Dave.
No.
You can't tell if he's a Mothman believer.
No.
You can't tell if he believes in aliens.
He's just an observer.
He is just there to tell the story.
Yep. He's got some journalistic integrity.
I really like it.
Me too.
Even if he's not a believer, which again we can't tell, he's open to telling people's stories, which
He's totally
I think
willing to listen.
that's a good journalist
Absolutely.
right there. I love it.
Absolutely.
And so then we get into the story of Marcella Bennett and her family, which is very interesting.
Yeah. So Marcella tells Jeff has collected this story.
And she looks like $1 million.
Yeah, she's killer.
Like
she's
platinum blonde, short hair, all black, head to toe.
Yes, she's wearing like a black slinky dress. Marcella says that her brother Raymond, Wamsley, family connection there,
What?
you have to imagine, and his wife Catherine and Marcella's 3-year-old daughter Tina, they're going to go see Raymond and Marcella's sister. So they get to the sister's house and they're hanging out a bit. They're ready to go home. And Raymond keeps telling Marcella to look into the sky to her right. She keeps saying, like, look over there, look over there. Marcella just thinks that he's like teasing her. She keeps like shooing him away. And then she turns to just keep walking to the car with Tina. Mm-hmm. And when she gets to the car, she says she reaches out for the door handle. Out of nowhere, there's this figure. So she says it has wings like a bird, but it's standing in kind of an awkward position with its head kind of down. She couldn't really see its neck. And she tries to run to the house, but she says she just couldn't. Like, she was just frozen and she couldn't do it. So
that seems totally reasonable to me.
Yeah. I don't know what else one would do in the situation.
I don't know.
She says that the creature started coming towards her. It got within a foot of her. She's holding on to her 3-year-old daughter's hand.
Poor Tina.
Who is crying. She gets enough control of her bod that she falls down kind of on top of Tina to like protect her, right? And she says that she can hear Raymond calling to her from the porch, like saying like, run, run. She picks up Tina and she runs back to the house. And she says that Raymond is standing in the door like, run, run, run. It's right behind you.
Like any horror movie you've ever seen.
Yes.
Every bad dream you've ever had where you can't run away fast enough. That's what it is.
That's what I imagine. And so she runs in through the door and Raymond slams the door right behind her and they hear the thing run into the door.
Like try to get through.
Yes.
No. Hey, I do have a question. What would you do if you had your kid? Like,
I know.
With my kid, I mean, if it was me, catatonic, like we've said before, that would be the option.
Absolutely. I would just lay down on the ground and then pretend to not be alive.
I can't imagine.
Pretend to not exist. Yeah, it's so scary. So scary. So scary.
And it running into the door.
So she says she was super traumatized and like, yeah, girl, same. And she doesn't really remember what happens next. She says she's kind of dazed, but she knew that this creature was not of Earth, like you said, right? She just like had this feeling it was not cool.
Yeah, she was thinking that it was not a terrestrial creature at all.
No, yeah. Because what we're seeing is a recording. It's not an interview for the documentary. It's a video.
Like almost like a home video.
That Jeff Wamsley took.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Look at you.
He's curator of the museum.
I love it.
I don't know about journalistic integrity.
I just have to say that I love that he's documenting it, though. I didn't mean that in like a Jeffrey, shame on you. I meant Jeffrey, look at you get.
I agree.
I would rather have a biased home video than home video.
Yeah, I agree.
So you know what, Jeff? Good on you.
Good on you, man.
Good on you, Wamsley.
So the narrator tells us that the sightings continue in and out of Point Pleasant, but there are a lot of sightings happening at the North Power Plant in the TNT area, like what happened to Bob Bobsworth. Bob and his friend go out riding on their motorcycles, so they're having this beautiful scenic drive trying to see stuff.
Trying to see stuff and not be murdered.
Yeah, exactly. They go through the TNT area. They go past the North Power Plant, and they see something on the roof. He can see 2 red eyes looking at them. They're young men with motorcycles. Obviously, they're not scared of anything. So they're going to go find out what the heck this thing is. And they walk up to the building and the thing like looks down at them. Yeah. Like it tracks them in with its eyes. I'm already scared. They're not scared though.
No, they're not.
And it's a full moon outside. So there's just enough light so they feel like they can walk around without getting hurt.
Well, they were saying when they were driving their motorcycles, they actually turned the headlights off because he said they could dodge the chuck holes by the moonlight.
Yes.
That's how well lit it was that they were able to see without their headlights.
Right. That's right.
So it's quite bright.
They climb up to the 3rd story, the very, very top. They see it at the end of this catwalk and it turns and slowly walks away from them. They can hear the footsteps in the like debris on the catwalk.
Yeah. The pictures they have of that building that they include, it just looks so terrifying and all the windows are blown out.
It's like your classic decrepit building.
And how they explain when they come up, was it inside or outside when they first saw it? Was it on the roof? I thought it was on the roof.
The way that I understood it was that it was on the roof, but
yeah, and then it seemed like when they went inside the building, it kind of met them in there.
Yeah, that's what I understood.
And then when they came in, they talk about walking toward it like dumb idiots.
Yeah.
And then it kind of turned toward them.
Yeah.
Basically, They were standing in the dark. It was standing in the dark. And then in between them was this bright swath of moonlight.
Through the window.
Through the like broken window. And it just came right to the edge of that and never came closer. Yep. And then, like you're saying, just walked away and they could hear it crunching. And then wings.
And then a wings. And giant wings. And it's gone.
November 18th, one of the first news articles ever about Mothman comes out. This kind of goes back, I think, to the first encounter with the two couples, right? That were going back, that kind of had the scary encounter where they were speeding to try to get away.
Well, because remember, this all happens in a very short amount of time.
Like sometimes multiple sightings in one day.
Yeah. So by the time that first story with those couples kind of gets into the newspaper, we've already had one or two other sightings that aren't even in the papers yet.
Yes. So on November 18th, the first kind of news article about Mothman comes out. And then within days, just more and more papers across West Virginia and Ohio are just coming out with more and more coverage. One of the big ones they talk about is the Athens Messenger, which is in the town of Athens, believe it or not. They begin to cover these stories particularly closely and extensively. And then within just a few days of these sightings, people are losing their shit. It's hysteria. On the day that this first article came out, on the 18th, Paul Yoder and Benjamin Enochs are two volunteer firefighters. They're kind of working with, like we were talking about, the police and firefighters that are kind of trying to police this area because everyone
is up there.
Is not only terrified of the Mothman, wants to see the Mothman right now and maybe shoot his face.
And shoot it. And shoot two if there's two.
I mean, if there's many, let's just shoot as many Mothman as there are. So they're in this area kind of patrolling, keeping things safe. And they say that they saw a large bird. They don't say Mothman.
No, they're kind of non-believers, I think.
Yeah, they say that while they were in their car, kind of just keeping an eye on things, they see a large white shadow fly over the car. And they say it is very big, and it's so big that they immediately stop the car. They get out, they're looking for the creature. They can't find it, it's gone.
Yeah.
The catch here, this is interesting, where everyone's having these, Mothman. They're insistent that it's just a large bird.
It's a big owl.
They're like, yeah, it's probably an owl. Which to that, I'm like, well, maybe they didn't see Mothman. I don't know that they're saying they didn't. Then maybe we should just be like, okay, maybe it was an owl though, guys.
Or maybe they're just trying to convince themselves.
That's true. I'd be trying to convince myself like, hell.
Yeah, me too.
More sightings occur because more and more people are actively looking for a Mothman. We have a new character in our lovely pantheon of eyewitnesses. She's great. She's awesome. It's Faye DeWitt Lepore.
She has the perfect Appalachian accent.
Oh, she's fantastic.
It's like people should study her because that's what it sounds like.
She's great. Yeah. She is so great. And I love just her surety in her story. It's amazing. She's just like, it's so matter of fact and just kind of like, and that's the way it was.
And that's what happened.
Ta-da. So she's talking about how she and her twin brother and her sister, and then she says a baby brother. I'm assuming that's not an actual baby brother, just a younger brother.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I would hope so. Don't take babies. Hey guys, don't take babies searching for cryptids. No. It's not a good idea. Don't go looking for trouble with babies. So they are driving and they turn off the main road. Her brother starts looking at her kind of funny and she finally says, "What is it?" And he says, "Don't look, but there's something right outside your window." And she, of course, looks.
Yeah. Because that's what everyone does.
And she was saying that she couldn't really see exactly what it was. It was very, very dark. And she couldn't tell if the thing outside was running or flying, but there was a thing there.
And it's the scariest animation ever.
Yeah, it's not okay.
It's got like wibble wobbly eyes. I hate it. Yeah. It's so scary.
It's very scary. So as they're driving, she starts slapping her brother's leg, telling him to go faster. We got to get out of here. Faster is not working because the thing is just going faster too.
And guess where they end up?
He decides, I'm going to take a quick
last minute left turn.
Yep. Since I can't lose it by going fast, I'm going to lose it by switching directions. So he takes a sharp left turn toward, where does he take a turn to, Cam?
The North Power Plant.
Yep, the TNT area. Right there. So he turns in, guess what? Doesn't lose it. Stays right with the car. It stays right on him. It makes the left turn with him. They're obviously quite shocked by this. They make another turn into kind of the loading dock area. And then he stops. And they're thinking, okay, maybe we lost it. They're trying to collect themselves. And then all of a sudden, it like drops onto the hood of the car. It's like on the hood of the car. And she said it just kind of squatted. Like it just sat there and was looking back and forth between her and her brother. And then her sister and her two brothers in the back are crying. Her brother who's driving is telling him to shut up and get on the floor and try to be quiet.
Very big brotherly.
Yes, shut up. So they're kind of frozen for a second in the car. and then it jumps off of the hood of the car and starts running toward the power plant. She thinks that it jumped up to like there's like a little porch or outcropping up there that it jumped onto. It was kind of watching them.
Like a balcony kind of,
from
right?
there. She's saying jumps because she doesn't recall wings at this point.
Right.
She can't see wings. She says if there were wings at this point, she just doesn't remember it. And so her brother, this is a very brother thing, opens the door and starts like picking up chunks of coal and is just like throwing it and saying, "Shoo, get out of here.
Piss off, Mothman."
Exactly.
Oh,
and then it seems to like go from maybe kind of a smaller crouch position, like an owl when they kind of put on their full stature.
Yes, I have seen that, Brittany.
Yeah. That's what I imagine here is that Mothman is kind of, he's standing, but then all of a sudden he's standing.
And he kind of puffs up.
Exactly. And then Faye is like, we're dead. So she starts telling her brother, look what you've done, get in the car. He jumps back in the car, he locks the doors, and he's like, lock all the doors. And she's like, I never unlocked my door, you dummy.
Because I'm not an idiot.
Because Faye is super smart.
Faye knows what's up.
And then she says that the Mothman at that point jumps up and opens what she says is the prettiest set of wings you've ever seen on anything.
Yeah.
And then just glides off and away and just flies away.
Another no flapper.
No flapping. Just kind of off it goes.
Yeah. See you later, Mothman.
And that's it. And thank goodness they survived because... Brother, no.
So sightings continue to pick up, and again, super consistent that it's described as a huge bird. My favorite things in the world. So one guy reports seeing a large bird in his yard. He describes it as 4 feet tall with red half-moon eyes. That's in a county over from Point Pleasant. A couple, they describe being chased by a bird-like creature that lands in a nearby tree. And an hour away from Point Pleasant, a woman says she sees a large bird run into the woods on foot. A guy in Charleston says that he calls the police to report what he calls a Batman with a 6-foot wingspan sitting on his neighbor's roof, which scares me so bad. I always see imaginary things on my neighbor's roofs. He says it has red eyes and it flew straight up into the air like a helicopter. One of these details we see over and over and over and over.
Interesting. No like propulsion from the wings, just up it goes.
Just see ya. And then we hear the story of Thomas Urry. This one comes from another interview with Wamsley. He is a businessman. I don't know what that means. What is a businessman? It makes me think of Adventure Time. Did you see that episode in the first season? With the businessmen? Yeah, and they just have briefcases. So Thomas Urry, a businessman in Point Pleasant, says he's driving his car and he sees what he thinks is a particularly large bird circling over his car as he's driving parallel to the Ohio River. We get another great and terrible, scary animation to go with it. It's kind of that like oil pastel one again. Every time it circles, it gets lower and lower.
No, thank you.
So it kind of like is like spiraling down. But he's driving, right? So it's circling and moving forward with him. He says it ends up as close as 75 feet. And at that height, he thinks it's about 10 feet across. He says at first he was really scared of it. But as it got closer and closer, he realized it wasn't going to like attack him or attack his car. And then he really felt like this thing was like curious. Like he felt like
he called it a mutual curiosity.
A mutual curiosity,
which I thought was really great.
So he says he was going about 75 miles per hour, but that was as the road was bending. But then there was a big straight shot of road, and he sped up to 90, and the creature kept up with him, no problem. He says eventually it kind of flew off towards the river. He says it came from the river, and it returned to the river.
He said he wondered if it nested there, which is like,
yes.
Gas a nest? Does that mean these babies Mothman?
All right, so with our mutual curiosity, it kind of goes into a bunch more stories of people who feel like this thing that they see is trying to communicate with them. So there's the story of Linda Scarberry, who sees the Mothman 18 times.
She's the one in the original sighting, right? She was in that group, right?
I feel like I've messed up some of the names, but yeah, I think so. Scarberry is definitely the name. So she sees it 18 times. One time she sees it outside the window of her house, and she says she sensed a sadness and a vague curiosity.
I do think it's interesting to note, I mean, if we're going to exclude Mr. Indrid Cold, who is obviously a terrifying villain, if he's not related to the Mothman, I do think the Mothman really hasn't done much to be aggressive.
No, the Mothman hasn't hurt anybody.
I would agree.
Just startled people.
I would agree that really it just seems curious. It follows people. It watches them. It has those big eyeballs to look at things.
For observing.
Like, I can kind of get on board with that it's really not...
It's a benevolent Mothman.
It doesn't seem malicious at all.
No, I would agree.
If anything, it just is curious. I guess the one when it runs into the door, that freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah, that one was scary.
But again, I mean, you get a happy dog that wants to follow you. My dog will run into the door after you.
And the other thing is, like, there's lots of theories that it was kind of trying to communicate with people, that it wasn't even a huge bird at all, that it was something kind of, like, supernatural, right?
Yeah.
There's all sorts of theories. There's that it's an alien, that it's this, critter that's a bird. Maybe it's some, like, ghostly type thing, right? And there's
a
specter of some sort. Yep.
So
I totally agree.
I like this idea that just because it's unknown and a little bit scary doesn't mean that it's dangerous,
right,
or
that it's going to hurt
evil.
you. Lawrence Gray talks about it. He says he and his wife, who were like young kids at the time, 19, they went to bed one night and he wakes up for some reason around 3 a.m. and looks out the window to his right. He sees a car go by, and then he looks back to the other side back into his bedroom, and he says he sees what he calls a devil standing by his bed.
Yes. He's like, I guess it was the Mothman, but it was a devil.
Yeah.
He says he had a horrible feeling it was an evil presence.
So he describes it as a gray form, 6 feet tall with red eyes.
He also said it was a dirty lunar color.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Was very interesting.
Very,
dirty lunar color.
Yeah.
Very descriptive.
Yes.
I like it.
I had
very
never
weird.
thought of lunar as
As
a color. But when he said it, I was like,
okay,
yes,
yes, indeed.
A light gray.
Yes, dingy.
Yes, a dingy gray.
Yes, dingy
quite.
gray. I like how he pointed out, maybe this is just him trying to very much be like, this is real. He was like, there are no buttons. There were no zippers.
Yeah.
It was a scary gray devil thing.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, as he's telling this story, and you would know about this. This is in your line of work. It all sounds like classic sleep paralysis biz to me.
It could be,
like,
for sure.
Absolutely classic. Because he goes on to say that he felt frozen, that he couldn't talk or move, which is classic sleep paralysis. Seeing a devil is classic sleep paralysis, right?
Yeah.
He says he starts to pray, and little by little it kind of evaporates away, which again, I'm not an expert in these things. You study sleep a bit. Not a bit. You study sleep. It sounds to me, what I know of it, as like telltale.
Yeah.
Like,
definitely could be.
Couldn't describe sleep paralysis better.
Yeah. He has a very descriptive way of describing things, which I like very much.
He talks about how it's burned, like he'll never forget.
When he says 74 years and I've never forgotten.
Yeah, and he's like, that was 50 years ago, and I remember it. And actually, he was 19. It was more than 50 years ago.
Then there's a professor from West Virginia University, comes down kind of like...
Never named.
No. So he comes down and he's like, okay, so I'm pretty sure it's like a sandhill crane, and it's just a big bird. Don't worry about it. Which people have specifically said, it doesn't have a neck. Like you were saying, it's bulbous at the top, and then it's tapered at the bottom. So there's no neck there.
Certainly not a crane.
It's not a crane.
But why? How does he explain why there would be a crane this size, Brittany?
Well, because it's mutated, of course.
Yeah, we got like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle situation.
So there's a theory that that how this has happened is that, you got a crane that came and, like, I don't know, meandered through the toxic water over here at the delightful preserve that we have, and then picked up some chemicals and then mutated it into Teenage Mutant Ninja Mothman.
Yeah, and Mothmans love pizza. They live in the sewers. I mean, they've got reporter friends.
They do.
It makes a lot of sense.
So many.
Yeah.
So many.
Did you know? Did you know that
pizza sounds good?
Yeah, pizza does. Pizza sounds
Why do we not
great.
have pizza right now?
Because it's 11:30.
We get Faye again, who just matter-of-factly is like, nope. No, this is not a mutation. She says, and I quote, it was perfectly formed the way it was supposed to be, just like any other thing is.
Okay.
One step shy of being like, God made this Mothman just the way he is, and he's perfect. We're on to like November 26th. This occasion, some people say they saw 4 of these motherfuckers sitting in a tree.
For 2 hours.
Yeah. They are 4 to 5 feet tall in the bod. Their wingspan is 10 feet.
No, thank you.
It's unreal.
For 2 hours, they say they sat in that tree. Yeah. That's a long time for a bird to hold still. I can't hold still for 2 hours.
I can barely hold still.
No, I can't.
Give me 20 minutes and I'm done.
I will be asleep if that was happening.
I like how they call all the ladies Miss whatever.
Yeah.
So we have Miss Ruth Foster, who had a Mothman on her front yard.
Yeah.
Then we have Miss Connie Carpenter.
Oh, yeah, Connie.
So it's very interesting. And then
Connie gets friggin' pink eye from the thing. I wrote the Mothman farted in her eyeballs.
He farted in her pillow.
The Mothman farted on her pillow and gave her
Keep your pillows at bay, people. The vast majority of the sightings are nocturnal. Most of them are at nighttime. But there are a handful that are during the day. And one example is this sighting by Connie Carpenter. It's in broad fucking daylight. So it's Sunday, November 27th. She's driving home from church and she sees what she thinks is a man standing kind of near this deserted golf course, which for some reason scares me very badly to think about.
Who deserts a golf course? That's like acres and acres and acres.
I don't know.
All right.
And why would a man be standing there?
Sure.
It's all bad. It's not good in any way. As she's drawing closer, she sees these large wings unfold, 10 feet across at least.
Very consistent.
And it flies straight up into the air.
Consistent.
And then she says it swoops at her car like it's going to attack. So maybe that is a little aggressive. And then she says once her eyes were fixed, it has these big red eyes. Once her eyes were fixed on that, she couldn't look away.
Yeah.
Her eyes are fixed on it. And then later, she contracts conjunctivitis, but, which is pink eye. We're talking about farting on pillows. It's not just any kind of conjunctivitis. It's Klieg conjunctivitis. Well, this is fun. So you can have like an allergic reaction that leads to it.
Yeah.
You can have trauma if you get something in your eye.
Your conjunctiva is just the
it's
tissue
just
around your eye, right?
Yep. So you can have like allergic conjunctivitis. You can have infectious conjunctivitis. You can have
like
chemical, if you get some kind of chemical in your eye. Chlamydia can cause conjunctivitis.
Up in your eyeball?
Up in your eyeball. Be careful.
Wowzers.
Hey guys, be careful. But
Careful out there.
Klieg conjunctivitis is caused by excessive exposure to intense light, specifically.
Wow. That's scary. I didn't know that.
Yep, because I thought it was definitely a fart in a pillow. Thought it was a fart in a pillow. Turns out it's like she made eye contact with this thing and it fucked her eyes up.
That's very scary.
That's wild
I don't
to
like
me.
that. I didn't know that and I didn't need to know that.
Isn't that wild? And then Connie never really speaks about her experience. She says she'd prefer to forget.
Yeah, so here's the thing. How do we know about it then, narrator? How do you know about it if Connie never spoke about it?
There is.
All right.
So she says that she doesn't like to talk about it. It scares her very badly. Her aunt,
Mary.
Hyre.
Yeah.
So Mary Hyre, who we were talking about, who kind of took point on all of these for the Athens Messenger, is her aunt. And it's kind of suspected that that's why she took such an interest in it, is because her niece had a very close encounter with some physical effects. And then that kind of spurred Mary to really keep tabs on it and make sure that people knew about it, which I thought was really interesting that it kind of circled back around to our good friend Mary.
Mary works for the Athens Messenger over in Ohio, but she lives in Point Pleasant. She has an office in Point Pleasant so that she can write on these sightings. That's kind of her beat, right? She has the most comprehensive reporting on it. She's kind of cataloging it all and picking stories from other papers and kind of keeping track of everything. A author from New York hears about what Mary's doing and hears about these stories. And his name is John Keel. And he feels like there's some sort of pattern, like there is something kind of bigger going on. It's not just these random sightings. So he comes down to Point Pleasant to kind of check it all out. He and Mary together interview a bunch of people. And the sightings continue to increase, which is crazy because there are so many. But at the very, very end of November there is a sighting almost every single day. Sometimes multiples per day.
That's
but
so crazy.
It is bananas. Mary and John take a bunch of people up there trying to see it. They take some of the teenagers that they saw from that first story back up there.
Make out. Yeah. Make out till Mothman will come.
No. We don't know that. But they do have like a sighting there. One of the girls sees it and screams, but no one else really sees anything. So I'm kind of not putting a bunch of that into it. Keel goes on to write the Mothman prophecies, which we'll talk about just a little bit more, a little further on.
Big stuff.
Yep. But then another guy named Gray Barker, which is a great name. Gray Barker. Yeah. He writes a book too called The Silver Bridge, and The Silver Bridge is kind of like the big culminating event here. So as we get in through like December, there continues to be tons of sightings. The narrator says that a bunch of it goes unreported. So like, how do you know about it? That's the kind of stuff that bugs me with things like this.
It's all a mystery.
Yeah. I'm like,
then why are we talking about it?
And they never spoke about it again. I'm like, then how do you know?
John Keel kind of begins to feel like he's at the epicenter of something now. He's gotten himself involved in something and now he's in the middle of it and doesn't quite know how to make sense of it. I mean, according to Wamsley.
Yes, according to Wamsley.
According to Wamsley. So John says that a lot of weird things have happened to him since he came to investigate Mothman. Wamsley says that John's calls were monitored, which I don't know how we don't have any proof. We don't know. He said he felt like he was always being followed and that he often suspected that it was by men in black, government ops, something like that.
Somebody was tampering with his mail.
Yep, that his mail would be intercepted. It kind of goes into some of these UFO sightings where then there seems to be some kind of acknowledgement by the government or men in black that like shit's happening and everyone needs to shut up about it.
This was a surprising part to me. I didn't know there was so much UFO activity around this.
So whenever I think Mothman, I think cryptid only. So this is interesting that it wasn't just Mothman lovable cryptid. It was Mothman lovable cryptid, terrifying grinning man, and also aliens.
And also a ton of aliens.
And ghost orbs and stuff.
And,
I don't know.
And weird men in black.
It's crazy. It's got everything. Something for everyone. So in January, just a couple of months after a lot of these sightings, this is 1967, there's a man named Tad Jones, and he's about 48 miles south of Point Pleasant. He sees a UFO land on Interstate 64 about 9 a.m. So it is the morning. And he was like, oh, shit. Apparently he tells some people what he saw, as you would.
I've seen a couple UFOs.
Right?
I saw one last week. I sent you a picture.
I know, it was good.
Yeah, thanks.
I've tried to see it. I went out there and genuinely was like, where is
I know.
it?
I tried to go back out and see it later, but
next time I will try to be more diligent, and I will try to, maybe I should get my little zoom lens for my, that's
yeah, you should have come to my house.
let's do that, and we'll film it. It'll be great.
Okay.
We don't want to see something 18 times and never have a picture of it.
Really good point.
I'm just saying. So he sees this UFO, and then the next morning he finds a note that's been tucked under his door, and it says, "We know what you've seen, and we know that you've talked. You better keep your mouth shut."
Better.
Yikes.
Better keep your mouth shut.
So people around town are starting to see like strange men who they're unsure if they are like men in black or from some undisclosed branch of the government.
Right.
They often wear black suits and black fedoras, and they drive black sedans. They often have weird behavior, and some people even describe it as like unworldly, like not really how people behave.
Yeah.
That's not how people do
Like
that.
their sentence structure is a little weird or whatever. I was like, that's an alien pretending to be a human.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, point for Mothman being an alien. That's not how wings work, buddy.
No, that's not how wings work.
Things that have wings flap their wings unless you're an airplane.
Yeah.
No. So if you're trying to blend in, because you think if I'm gonna fly, I got to have wings. If those wings are stationary, you're not blending.
You're not tricking us. We know you're an automaton.
Just a little clue for later. So Mary Hyre is also visited by Men in Black in January of 1967, and then we start seeing more and more reports of Men in Black coming in at like homes and businesses and asking people, "Why are you talking about this?" and "Don't cause a panic," and trying to get people to like back off and stop talking about it. Kind of seems to be the like general.
Yeah, some intimidation.
Yes, a little bit like, "Why are you getting everyone worked up about this? You should stop talking about it."
Right.
So there are a couple of specific examples they provide of this. The first one kind of made me laugh, where there is an actual like Air Force file examining these reports from early March, right? March 1st, 1967. And like this man says that this plainclothes guy comes up to he and his wife, and he says, "Go stand over there and point to where you saw Mothman. Point to me." And his wife says,
ladies.
"Go to hell. I'm not going to stand here like some dumb hillbilly and point to an empty field."
Like they're trying to trick her.
Just get out of here.
Get out
like,
here.
No.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm not going to stand there like some dumb hillbilly and point to an empty field.
You're not going to trick me.
Oh. And then there's another lady who said that the Men in Black actually tried to abduct her.
Yeah.
And that she went outside her house in the morning. They were in one of those black sedans.
Yeah, she was just getting her mail.
Someone jumped out and grabbed her arm, and they ripped her sleeve off as she was getting away. So then we touch on a few more UFOs, and it seems like in 67, we don't have as many Mothman sightings, but we have hundreds of UFO sightings.
Yeah.
It's all the time.
Yeah.
Oftentimes there are people in different places observing the same thing from different locations. Yeah. They give an example of Mary Hyre, who's been covering all of this stuff. She gets a call from a Miss Alice Bradshaw, who says that she saw this shiny saucer UFO. And then she also gets a call across town from a Miss Dolly Grady, who says she saw the same thing. Yeah. Two different places,
and across town. Right.
Seems like they didn't communicate that to each other. They called Mary in the morning to have her publish it. Right. So from about April 1967 to November 1967, Mothman sightings are way down. Yeah. Mothman is not as hip and popular and coming to visit all the time as he was.
He goes on summer vacation.
He's just doing his thing.
Can't handle the humidity.
Needs a break.
He needs a break. He's been doing a lot. He deserves
a
break.
Short amount of time.
Yeah. Comes back for Thanksgiving.
Yes, so back in November. So now it's a year later. It is 1 year and a day since that first sighting. It appears again. Mothman is back. And it's back in that...
Guess who's back?
Mothman's back. Tell a friend. So on November 16th, which is a year and 1 day after that initial sighting, Mothman appears again. There are some more sightings late in November again. He loves the fall.
Yeah.
Mothman loves the fall.
I bet fall in West Virginia is beautiful, though.
I bet it is.
I bet it's great.
I bet it's gorgeous. And so then, like, an elderly businessman sees what he calls a flaming-eyed gargoyle standing on his lawn. And they kind of stare at each other, and then it flies up again. No wing
flapping.
movements. We start to get some little foreshadowing from a lot of our talking heads.
Yes.
Where they're saying, I wish that we had maybe sent people there to report directly, or I wish that we had noticed there was a pattern of escalation. Yes. I wish that we had seen that things were kind of ramping
crescendo.
Up. Yes. Because now we get to the big incident that everyone or almost everyone thinks of when they think of the Mothman, which is The Silver Bridge.
The Silver Bridge, yeah. On December 16th, it's, a handful of days before Christmas. Yep. It's payday Friday. It's probably people's last payday before Christmas. So everyone's out shopping. Cars are full of packages and people. For some reason, traffic is rerouted to the bridge. And the light is red at the other side of the bridge. So there's bumper to bumper traffic backed up along the bridge. The bridge collapses. A whole bunch of cars fall into the river. Mm-hmm. It's December. It's the middle of winter. It's freezing. Not only does the bridge fall and kind of swing back towards its pylons, but then it kind of swings back the other direction and breaks off and crushes a bunch of those cars. So any chance of rescuing some of those people or those people getting out, it's horrible. Yeah, it's horrible. There's a lot of time spent showing pictures of the collapsed bridge, pictures of kind of the rescue and cleanup efforts.
And it's catastrophic. The damages.
It's horrible.
The whole thing is... It's unreal to look at.
It's basically just horrible, right?
Yeah.
People report wrapped Christmas packages floating down the river.
With bodies.
Their
bodies and Christmas packages.
Exactly. They dredged the river for days and days, pulling out bodies and cars and bits of bridge. And then... I'm not saying I'm some sort of Mothman expert, but I've seen a few things. This is the first time hearing of it. They didn't fix the bridge for years.
No.
They just left it like that.
Is it even fixed now?
I don't know.
I don't think it is. They said they just left the ramp
up to
the bridge there.
And then it just falls
and
off.
then, and the people who lived in the town were saying you'd drive by and it was like a sock in the gut every time because you'd see...
Just a constant reminder. And then they spend a good solid 5 minutes here showing like the cleanup efforts and the cranes that they use and the machines and the helicopters. And it's just very, very sad. So a lot of the older guys that have been in our documentary so far, Denny and Dave and even Wamsley, who was a little bit younger at the time.
I think he was in like third grade.
Yeah,
he said he could hear it.
Yeah, they heard the big boom noise. Yep.
Yeah.
They all talk about how, they had classmates that died, or like the mayor's parents died, the mayor of the town. It's just awful. It's just awful. There's no
and for days it was hard to know who was on the bridge and who wasn't.
Yeah.
Who had made it across and maybe just couldn't get it. I mean, this is
because they were stuck.
Yeah. And this is the late 60s. It's not like you have a cell phone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you could find a way to communicate, but it's not going to be instantaneous. Yeah. There were some people where it's like you don't even know where your loved ones are.
Yeah. Just awful.
Horrific.
Yep. The older guys talked about how, like, the talk of Mothman just, like, stopped.
Yeah.
I think Denny says at one point, like, nobody cared anymore. Like...
Yeah, I think there were a few reports of lights from Ohio for a couple of days. The fervor was gone. Yeah. It was like, why does this matter? Why would we be talking about Mothman?
Yeah, exactly. True or not, whether it's real or not, who cares?
It's inconsequential at this
moment.
What
we know is true is that a whole bunch of people died. There are some urban legends that kind of pop up later, but all of the people who kind of lived through this were like, nobody was talking about it at the time. It wasn't until years later that people started saying like, oh, someone saw the Mothman perched on the bridge.
That's the big thing is that people say that Mothman was on the bridge before the collapse because they say he's a harbinger of bad news. Yes. He's a bad omen. But Denny was like, that was not a thing.
Nobody said that at the time.
No one said that.
Kind of like with our buddy Cornstalk, right?
When talking about how sad it is, that tragedy for even the younger generation of people who lived there.
Yes,
now it's just part of the Mothman story.
Right.
But it's not.
It's not. Those were real people.
And it had nothing to do with Mothman. Mothman was not, no one said Mothman was there. No one said that there was any connection at all. And now it's kind of sad that this tragedy where people lost their lives has become kind of a footnote.
Yeah, kind of sensationalized.
I love paranormal stuff.
Me too.
I love a cryptid. But there's stuff that's important and then there's stuff that's important.
Right.
And what's important is not to take this tragedy and make it about a cryptid.
Yeah, make it into something kind of fun. This fun cryptid story, right? It's not fun. It's just sad. It's just
really sad. And again, like you were saying with Cornstalk, you're twisting history.
Yeah.
That's not what happened.
Right. So we kind of move on from this really awful, tragic thing. John Keel goes on to write his book, The Mothman Prophecies. It's very well received, both critically and commercially. It makes a lot of money. Of course, years later, they make it into a movie.
Yeah, 2002.
Yep. It's a great movie, by the way. Have you seen it?
It's great.
Really good.
It's been a long time. We should watch that again.
Yeah, it's got Richard Gere and Deborah Messing and Blondie from Truman Show. What's her name?
Laura Linney.
Laura Linney, who's great. That's a great movie. Anyways.
It is. It's good.
A few years after the movie comes out, a few years after the book comes out, Mary Hyre passes away. And that's kind of the end of really consistent reporting on the phenomenon. And now it's just kind of like one-off sightings here and there. There's nobody to kind of
there are still sightings today.
There are sightings today.
Yeah. Sightings have not stopped. They've slowed down, but they have not stopped.
Right. There's a big festival in the museum that Wamsley runs, of course.
Mm-hmm.
All the old guys in the documentary talk about how the town still has that kind of small town vibe. Denny at one point says, if you just replaced everybody's cars and clothes with cars and clothes from the 60s, then it's like pretty much the same town, which is pretty sweet. Hey, did you notice there's like a ton of t-shirts for sale? Like so many t-shirts, Jeffrey.
I didn't notice that.
Mr. Wamsley? Why so many t-shirts? So many t-shirts. There's
We have to go.
We have to go. They have a big statue.
Yeah.
We're going to end with a great dad joke. Denny
ready.
says, they talk about, how generally people like the festival and the attention. And generally, if the Mothman's real, they kind of like it. Never really hurt anybody.
Yeah.
It was kind of thing. And then Denny says, if he ever comes back, I hope he doesn't want royalties because we'll be in trouble. It's like, all right.
And credits.
That's literally.
Well, thanks for joining us, Weirdlings. This was very fun. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and here.
And here.
In the
Always
podcast.
here.
Always here in the podcast.
Yeah.
We're trapped. Help! Sorry.
It's not silence if you're laughing.
Okay. I was too busy biting a hangnail on my hand to take notes today.
Been there,
it was
man.
real bad.
Been there. We're going to talk a little bit.
You can fight the Mothman or be his friend.
Oh, nice. I would be his friend for sure.
I will probably be calling him Mothman on accident.
Instead of what?
Mothman?
Mothman? You're going to call him Mothman?
On
instead of
accident.
Mothman? I didn't know. Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know my favorite Zorak line?
What is it?
Attention all Libras. Tomorrow, you're going to wake up with a lump on your neck. It's your head. Don't pick at it. You'll only make it worse.
Oh, I don't know if I need more wine or less wine.
More. You need more. Put your mic up there. Let's hear those drinking noises.
Hey, Brittany, edit this shit out.
Bad.
It's the ratio of bird to man that really worries me.
Yeah. They're awful. There's nothing you're going to say where I'm going to be like, well, now hold on. Be fair to the birds. I'm going to be like, nah, they suck. They suck. All of them are gross. They all scare me. They all got creepy heads. They all got creepy eyeballs. I don't like them. I am scared to be out here. If we were talking about literally the Muppet Show, I would be scared to be out here.
Have you been near a helicopter?
Uh-huh.
Ever like that?
I've been in a helicopter. I don't know, maybe this didn't happen everywhere, but like back in the 90s, sometimes the helicopters would just like land in the Walmart parking lot and you could pay like $20 and they'd fly you around.
This.
Yeah, that's what happened. My dad took us on one of those.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
That's like when I took that picture in my room and thought I caught a ghost on camera, but it was my own face. And I like went to go send it to you and was like, oh, that's you. That the cops and volunteer, let me try that again. In the article, the police and fire department, nope, that's not the word. This is the other interesting thing about this. Not a musical, it's a documentary. Or it's a show.
Musical? Mothman the musical? That sounds amazing.
Let's get TikTok on it right now.
I don't think we've ever had an argument.
I don't think so. Not truly.
No, not really.
Usually it's about like, please take care of yourself. I love you so much.
Yeah, exactly.
God. Love you as much as I love you.
So much.
Here's the other thing, though. We never hear about it flapping its wings except for now. So
that's
not
a little very often, no.
Right? I mean, it's usually just like it spreads its wings and then it just like...
Maybe it just needs one.
Maybe that's the sound of takeoff. Lift off.
So next goes into this next sighting. I'm going to say that again because that sounded super stupid.
Through those broken? Through
blown
the
out broken windows.
The blown out broken windows.
Yes. That happened at the North Power Point. So now we're going to hear about Bob
Point.
Power
Is that what it's called?
Plant.
Oh, okay. I was like,
so sorry.
No, you're good. You said that and I was like, I missed that. I wrote it down wrong again.
Point Pleasant North Power Plant.
Pleasant. Power Plant.
Plosives. Point Pleasant.
He could have hurt her.
Yeah.
He's 7 feet goddamn tall.
Yeah.
7 goddamn feet tall. I don't know.
I think both are fine.
He was 19 and married. I was like, what is this, Utah?
How old were you when you got married?
I was a ripe old 21.
Okay.
Actually, I think it was a month before I turned 21.
My husband insists that's it. That's the only way to get pink eye. No one gets pink eye unless their older brother farted in their pillow.
Scarberry and mallet sighting or Millette sighting. It's probably Millette.
I think it's Millette.
Yeah, it's Millette. Moth person?
That would be the more inclusive term. How do we know he's a man?
You know what? That's excellent. That's an excellent point.
Moth person. We don't need to be gendering our cryptids.
No, we don't know his pronouns.
No, that's rude. We should ask.
We should. And then run away very quickly.
Chapstick. Edit that out.
Some. Do you need chapstick?
No, it's in the movie, remember?
Oh, yeah.
He's like, what's in my hand? Edit that out.
Cut it in post.